Here at Vibe Science, ultimately, we're here to empower you to your best self. It's about mind, body, and energy. And you know what? When you work out a lot, when you're eating a healthy diet, it's hard to get enough sodium. It is one of the most important factors in hydration, and hydration controls so many variables of how we feel, how our brain thinks. That's why we're proud to partner with Warrior Salt. Hey, we like to take the BS out of stuff. This is no bullshit, just electrolytes, straight fruit powder and salt, the real deal. I love this product because it's simple. Sometimes we get overcomplicated in the supplements we take, but all I know and what I've learned and the science has proven is you have to have enough salt for that balance of hydration. This stuff mixes really easy with water, as you see. You got to be watching the YouTube to get the full effect of this. How easy that mixes in, and a very simple citrus flavor that's delicious, easy to drink, and perfect before and after the exercise to stay hydrated. Look, if you're already thirsty, you've waited too long. That's why you need Warrior Salt, official partner of Vibe Science and Ryan Alford. Delicious, and will keep you hydrated all day long. Today on Vibe Science, I talk with Scott Hickle, CEO of Throne. Yeah, he is the king of the commode. You'll understand when you listen today. Take a look at that shit. You got to look at it to know exactly what's happening inside the body. We can start tracking and actually get ahead of certain things if we have a camera in the commode. It's not as creepy as it sounds, I promise. That and more on Vibe Science.
The difference between colon cancer and lung cancer, though, is that lung cancer is 88% correlated with smoking, whereas colorectal cancer, only 14% of cases are explained by pre-existing hereditary syndromes. So it's effectively random. In general, in health, the earlier you catch a trend, the easier it is to address or potentially reverse. They talk about this a lot with diabetes. You know, if you catch someone who's pre-diabetic, it's easier to treat and manage that than once it's developed into full-blown type 2 diabetes, and a lot less expensive for the entire healthcare system. You literally could not have done this 10 years ago. Like, the technology did not exist. It's this perfect confluence of like gut health is now top of mind for everyone, and the technology exists. AI has gotten to the point where you can actually do it.
This is Vibe Science, a top 100 wellness podcast presented by the Radcast Network, breaking wellness barriers and making health truly personal. Here's your host, Ryan Alford.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Vibe Science. We're always taking you to your highest vibe. It's about mind, body, energy, and poop. You never know what it's going to be about. You're like, what the hell is Ryan on today? Well, yeah, you know what I'm on? I'm sitting on a throne because I've got Scott Hickle. He is the CEO of Throne. What's up, Scott?
Hey, Ryan, thank you so much for having me, man.
Hey, good to have you. I've never been so excited about, poop.
I never thought that I'd become a poop expert, but now it's honestly, this is like my greatest passion. So excited to dive into it with you.
Who never knew, shit's your passion. So funny. I mean, it is funny, like, as dudes too, like sophomore humor of poop and bowel movements and everything else that goes into it. But who knew, as kids, we had no idea that how much it said about us.
Totally. A lot of thoughts here. So first, you talk about sophomore humor. This literally started as a joke around a poker table. My co-founder pitched the idea of smart toilets as a company he would love to start, but wouldn't want his name associated with. And his idea originally was just a toilet seat that weighed you before and after and told you kind of how big it was. I was like, that's hilarious. Clearly you would, put a leaderboard on it, sell it into frat houses and name it Throne. And here we are 4 years later, building something I think much more meaningful than that. But it started, as a joke.
Yeah. So it's a clip-on camera that's analyzing your bowel movements to signify gut health or any issues that, like to identify things maybe proactively. Am I summarizing?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're building the first continuous monitor for gut health, urinary function, and hydration. We like to say it's like Whoop for your poop or Aura for your flora or the shit bit, but it clips onto the toilet and then uses computer vision with a camera looking down into the toilet bowl. We like to say there's a wealth of health information down in the toilet bowl. There's nothing but liability looking up. So the camera's, very explicitly only looking down. And then we run a whole host of computer vision AI analysis over the contents of the toilet bowl to understand things like stool frequency and consistency and strain, hydration, urine flow dynamics, which is important for prostate health. And ultimately, the long-term vision is to build what we call the smoke detector for colon cancer. And so we're happy to talk about that, but that's where I hope to be in 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, my mind went there because I have seen, some of the pre-screening, I guess, with colon cancer with looking at bowel movements, and I know that's a big part of it. So I think that's what you're referencing, right?
Yeah. So one of the earliest signs of colon cancer is called fecal occult blood, which is blood that's in your stool that's invisible to the naked eye. And right now you test for that by taking a physical sample of it, your stool, and then sending it off to a lab. And a lot of people just straight up will not do that. There are entire communities that kind of notoriously will not do that. There are, if you're prescribed by a doctor to do that, still 1 in 3 patients just never completes that prescription. So our goal is to make it hands-free, automatic, effortless. You don't have to reach into the toilet bowl and collect a sample, but you get that same level of potentially life-saving health insight.
Yeah. What's going on? Like, you named like some of the things that you're looking at, but talk to me about specific maybe conditions or gut health. Like what are we trying to track ultimately to avoid this? Like what are some of the outcomes that we're trying to either avoid or to take precautionary action from whatever is happening?
Yeah. So just in general in health, the earlier you catch a trend, the easier it is to address or potentially reverse, right? And they talk about this a lot with diabetes. If you catch someone who's pre-diabetic, it's easier to treat and manage that than once it's developed into full-blown type 2 diabetes, and a lot less expensive for the entire healthcare system. And so some of the examples for us, while we can't reverse these, we can still get a lot better insight into things like irritable bowel syndrome. That affects, roughly 15 to 20% of women in the United States and like 10% of men. That's a huge audience. And then there's IBD, inflammatory bowel diseases. That's Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. And if you have a chronic digestive disease like one of those two, then you are no stranger to looking at your stools and the discomfort that comes from just a bad day. Is called flaring, right? And we're giving you objective data that you can then go back and talk about with your doctor. Because like right now, you go see your gastroenterologist. The first question they'll ask you is, how have your poops been since you were last in my office over the last 6 months? And like, I don't know, I had like 5 bad days 6 weeks ago. Like that's not particularly helpful or scientific. And so we're giving you like the actual charts of your data. On the urine side, there's a couple of really interesting ones. First is benign prostatic hyperplasia. So that's non-cancerous enlargement of the prostate that your prostate's like this donut that goes around your urethra outside the bladder. And so as you age, it starts to get bigger and bigger and squeezes your urethra. It makes it harder and harder to pee as a man. And that's why, we as men stereotypically start waking up in the middle of the night as we get older to go pee, BPH. And so the number one way you track prostate health is by looking at your urinary flow rate, how fast you're peeing. And that's something we can do. And so there's a lot of interventions you can do, supplements, Kegels, pelvic floor exercises that can help improve urinary flow rate and reduce the pace at which BPH advances. And if you catch that early, you can send up those warning signs to people instead of waiting until they're like clinically symptomatic and then have to go in to talk to your urologist and get surgery or like catheterized. That sucks. The other really, I think, great opportunity here is hydration monitoring. Like obviously hydration is important. Everyone can appreciate that you need to drink 8 glasses of water a day. And you might even do it for a few days after you read the CNN article that goes around every 6 months. Mm-hmm. But it's especially important for adults over 65 because hydration is highly correlated to an increase in accidental fall risk. Mayo Clinic did a big research study over 10,000 plus patients and found that chronic dehydration leads to a 13% elevated odds ratio for taking an accidental fall. And above age 65, complications due to accidental falls are the number one cause of accidental death in adults. So even something as simple as just being reminded to drink more water will statistically save lives.
It's, the longer I do the show, it's some of the simple things. It's like, but we just need a list of them to keep up with. And we need, a throne to make sure it's tracking all of it.
Yeah, I don't know that everyone needs it, but I think I like to think of it as like a check engine light for my gut, right? Like, my 2017 Jeep Cherokee has 35 sensors on the dashboard, and my body, I only get one of these my whole life. I'd like to know if something's out of range.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you get blood work, I get blood work done 3 times a year. So it's like, you might as well get your poop work done, like
totally,
regularly. And so talk to me about the response that you've gotten with the product, and let's get to the nuts and bolts of like how it works.
All right. So I'll start with the response, which has been polarizing, as you can imagine, right? Like, this is not for everyone. And a lot of people, especially in the early days, about 2.5 years ago when we started working on this, the idea of a toilet camera is like crazy, objectively, right? But over the past, really in the last like 9 months, since we've started showing people what the actual device looks like, people are like, oh, that looks like it belongs on my toilet, and isn't actually as like intrusive or a violation of privacy as it seems, in my imagination. The first thing I heard versus what I'm seeing are two totally different things. And especially people with chronic digestive diseases or family history of, colon cancer, even though that's not where the product is today, they see the vision and they're like, this could save my life or someone's life I love. And like, I buy into that vision. And then, there's a whole host of people with those diseases we talked about who are like, yeah, I would love this. Where's this been all my life? Because I've been keeping a poop diary, right? Like I log into Excel and keep track of this to go talk about with my doctor. This is way less humiliating than that. And so the response has been really powerful. And then the other thing is it's very viral. We've gone viral like 3 times now. You can see on Instagram the like to share ratio. And like twice now, we've had a like to share ratio that's like 2 to 3x shares more than likes. Like, people love sending this to their friends, which is awesome. And then into the nuts and bolts of how it works. And so basically, we distributed a whole bunch of alpha and beta devices over the last couple of years to collect a giant database of poop pictures. And then we hired a team of gastroenterologists to go and label those images one by one with the consistency on the Bristol stool scale, which is like the medical terminology for like hard, healthy, loose liquid. And then, so now we have an AI model trained by physicians that can categorize your poop. And then we've built a whole host of other tools to allow us to basically understand what's happening in the toilet bowl. And so, another one is we have the ability to measure the distribution of evacuation events, which can tell you about how constipated someone is, like quantify that, right? Like, physicians say you're not supposed to sit on the toilet for more than 10 minutes. Like, the time from the time you sit down to the time when you have your first movement is an important metric for understanding like how much you're straining to get there. And like, unless you're sitting there with a stopwatch, which like no one does, then you're just not going to get that number. But one of my personal favorites is we built a robot we call PissBot, which literally just simulates pee streams into a toilet bowl. And we run it for hours overnight to record ground truth audio data, what it sounds like for a pee stream to go into the toilet bowl. And we can understand the exact flow rate at every moment of that stream. And then we use that data to train a model that turns that audio data into flow rate data. And so there's just like probably 6-7 different core pieces of technology that have gone into this, depending on what different metric we're going for. It's so cool. It's amazing that this stuff works to me, right? The fact that like the sound of your pee stream maps 1-to-1 to the flow rate is mind blowing.
No matter what your toilet is, even if you go outside.
No, if you go outside, it's different. It's the fact that it's the pee entering the water in the basin. So like it's just like this happy accident of modern history that we have toilets with water in them to prevent it from smelling bad. But it also serendipitously, decades later, has given us this ability to record your urinary flow rate.
It's fascinating. And it's fascinating that all of those things, data points, tell you something, and using AI to sort of map it all out to create, what are trends, what are, what's noise and what are signals.
Exactly. And like, this is the kind of stuff like you literally could not have done this 10 years ago. Like the technology did not exist. It's this perfect confluence of like gut health is now top of mind for everyone. And the technology exists. AI has gotten to the point where you can actually do it.
What's the goal with the company, man? I mean, where are you're building towards, further capability. I heard that with the colon screening and all that. I mean, what's the ultimate, goal here? Doctors recommending it in X number of households. Like, where do we see like the scale of this thing going?
So if we nail the smoke detector for colon cancer, which we have some research in our lab that's like literally results have come out in the last month that just have me so excited I can't see straight. And if we can reliably detect trace amounts of blood in stool and raise someone a yellow flag and say, hey, you should go talk to a gastroenterologist and potentially get a colonoscopy, and we find a polyp or malignant tumor that they would otherwise have missed and we save lives, there is no reason this shouldn't be in, like, it's literally a smoke detector for colon cancer, right? Like there's no reason this shouldn't be in every home in the world, because colon cancer today is the second deadliest cancer in the world behind lung cancer. The difference between colon cancer and lung cancer, though, is that lung cancer is 88% correlated with smoking, whereas colorectal cancer, only 14% of cases are explained by pre-existing hereditary syndromes. So it's effectively random, 86% random. 4% of Americans at today's rates will get colon cancer at some point in their lives. That is way more people than will experience a house fire. And the crazy thing is, last year, 150,000 Americans were diagnosed with colorectal cancer. 1 in 3 of them died from it, despite the fact that if you catch it early, it is one of the easiest cancers to cure. You go in for a colonoscopy, it's a 45-minute outpatient procedure, you snip it out, you're done. You have to go back in for another colonoscopy in a few years, but like, you're living on borrowed time. The only reason 1 in 3 people died from it is just because we catch it too late. And if we can detect those earliest signs of it, again, going back to the conversation we had at the top here, right, about the importance of early detection for intervention, if we can find those early signs of it, and the thing I'm excited about is for colon cancer, you have like 7 to 10 years on average before a polyp develops into a cancerous tumor. So that's a long lead time for detection and intervention. And if we can do that reliably, like, I genuinely believe this should be as commonplace as smoke detectors and carbon monoxide alarms. Like, there's no reason why anyone should ever die of colon cancer if you can catch it early.
I'm almost hearing it should be built into the toilets.
Long term, I'd love that, right? Like, yeah. The way it works right now is you bring your phone with you to the bathroom and it has a motion sensor on the device, and the motion sensor wakes up, and then your Bluetooth pings it and says, this is Ryan versus this is Scott. And so that's how it knows who's using the toilet. And ultimately, I want this to be a situation where you go to the bathroom, any bathroom in the world, at the office, at a hotel, at the gym, at home. And as long as you have your phone with you, that'll identify you and capture all the same data, regardless of where you're going, so that you get just a total picture of your health every time you go.
Yeah. No, what a world that would be. Pretty good for sales too.
Obviously, but for me, it's more just like, this feels like the inevitable future, right? Like there are some ideas from sci-fi that are just so good. It's like, why wouldn't that happen? And this is kind of one of those sci-fi ideas.
Yeah. And the fact that you called it Throne is amazing.
Again, it started as a joke, but it's a perfect name.
I know. Well, so talk to me about how and what is detectable, like, today, like, as the product exists today. I mean, I'm assuming we can buy it today. And
so you can pre-order it today. The first version ships in January.
Okay. Pre-order today. First order ships in January. And what can we expect there? Like, obviously we're not at the colon point yet, but
yep,
we might can catch X, Y, or Z. What are those things we can get ahead of?
Yeah. So this first device, just to be very clear, is focused on more health and wellness, less on medical diagnostics. We don't want to be diagnosing or catching things, and that pushes us into medical device territory with the FDA. But we are measuring things that people with chronic health conditions might find useful, but are also useful to the general public. So things like, the stool frequency and consistency, those are the foundations of your digestive pattern. And you can correlate, and we're building a food logger right now, so you can start correlating your diet to your digestive pattern and understand dietary triggers, sensitivities, and intolerances, right? 80% of the time when you eat cruciferous vegetables, you are more likely to have a loose or liquid bowel movement. Or, it looks like red meat, typically results in healthier bowel movements, right? Like that type of thing. I think, Whoop has an amazing screen that shows how different behaviors impact your recovery score the next day. We want to do the same thing with your diet and how different ingredients and supplements impact your gut health score. Then we're looking at, again, things like strain, hydration, your urine flow dynamics, the color, size of your stool. We haven't built this one yet, but we have kind of an early prototype for digestive transit times, like how long it takes you to digest food end to end. And that changes over time as you age. Your what's called gut motility starts to slow down. So that's kind of the basics. So you get, about 16 different metrics across all of those. So like average flow rate, peak flow rate, and then, longer term, we're going to be introducing things like gas sensors. These are future versions of the device. But kind of going back to your question about, what the long-term vision of the company is, it's also, yes, it's improving health and saving lives, but also we'll have a data set that is so unique, right? No one will have this longitudinal gut health data at the scale that we will. We're already working with researchers at top universities like University of Chicago and UCLA who want to take that anonymized research and advance science, really drive into new frontiers for humans' understanding of the body. Like that's some of the stuff I'm like most excited about.
Geeking out on the toilet, one way or another. Scott, it's really fascinating. Where can everybody learn more about what you guys are doing, pre-order, all that stuff?
Yeah, so our website is thronescience.com. Our socials, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, X, all just Throne Science, at Throne Science. And then I'm at Scott Hickle.
Hey, love it, man. I mean, it has the chance to change a lot of things. And, I think you nailed it. I mean, the preemptive nature of this, of like knowing, and the smoke detector is a great analogy. You got to know there's a fire before the fire comes and takes you down.
That's exactly right, man. Ryan, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Hey, guys, you know where to find us, vibescience.com. You'll see the whole video and audio from this, the highlight clips. We'll have links to Throne Science and, of course, Scott's stuff. It's fascinating. It's about mind, body, energy. That's from top to bottom. Pun intended. We'll see you next time on Vibe Science.
The content discussed on this show is provided for reference and educational purposes. The content is not an attempt to practice medicine or provide specific medical advice. Always consult your personal physician for medical advice and proper diagnosis.
Thanks for listening. This is Vibe Science. To learn more or watch full episodes, visit vibesciencepodcast.com. Here's to discovering your highest vibe.